Cycling journalists, and in particular tech editors, test all sorts of bikes and gear, and we can get well into the weeds with the details. But there's one question that everybody wants to know. What's your favorite stuff and why? And this is the question I put to 11 journalists around the world. I spoke to Josh Croxton, Betsy Welch, Caley Fretz, Anne-Marije Rook, Dave Rome, David Arthur, Aaron Borrill, Kesteven, Stephen Verniers, James Huang, and Dan Cavallari. You're probably familiar with many, if not most, of these names. In case you're not, check out their websites in the video description down below. Similarly, the lists of all their favorite products of the year are in the video description. Please take a second to subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Thank you for doing so. Now sit back and enjoy the gear of the year of 11 cycling journalists from around the globe. James Huang, one of the preeminent tech editors in the world. You've tested stuff for years and years. What are your favorites of 2022?
My first of my favorite cycling, well, favorite things of 2022.
Drum roll.
Gummy bears. Over the years, I think people who have been riding a long time, they get to know what sort of fuel works pretty well for them. And as it turns out for me, pure sugar works great. Or high fructose corn syrup, as the case may be. And I do use bars and gels and that sort of thing on occasion, bring like real food for certain things as well. But for a lot of rides, I find if I just take a handful of gummy bears and stick them in a Ziploc bag and bring them with me, that keeps me going for a good 2-3 hours or so. For any of you out there that ride in cold temperatures, this stuff is amazing. This Polartec Alpha stuff, it looks super fuzzy, and it's super fuzzy for a reason, because the whole point of insulation is to trap air, right?
Loft.
And this is incredibly good at trapping air. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. It's all soft and fuzzy and happy. And it didn't used to be super common, but now it's coming in a whole lot more cycling apparel. It's not terribly inexpensive, but as far as warmth for weight and bulk and whatnot, this stuff is incredible. To me, it feels almost on par with down, but it breathes a lot better. Again, it's been out for a couple years now, but it's nice that it's being used in a lot more things. Where are my other things? All right, another one. Ben, you and I have known each other for a long time, worked together for a number of years. I like stuff, but I don't necessarily always want to give up on a whole lot of other attributes just in the name of going faster. So one of the things that falls into that list are often, or have historically been, aero helmets. Because a lot of times aero helmets, they're faster, sure, but they're also hotter, heavier, maybe not so comfortable, that sort of thing.
Look silly, perhaps.
Definitely look silly. And as you can tell, I am all about being, no. But this Giro Eclipse has been a really nice surprise this year, because it's supposedly the fastest road helmet Giro's made. But it actually ventilates really well. It's pretty reasonably light. It's not super light. It's like, this one's like 270 grams or something for a CPSC medium. I think it looks pretty good. Relatively speaking, I mean, it's not cheap, but it is actually less expensive than a lot of other companies' aero helmets. This one's like $250 US. But the big thing for me is that you just don't really have to compromise a whole lot with this thing. I mean, even the sweat management's really good with this little brow tab that they have here. So this one's really been a winner. I've been very happy with this. The only time I reach for something else is if it's like really, really super hot, or if I know I'm going to be doing a ton of climbing. But otherwise, this has been kind of my go-to all year. Last on my list.
Yes.
Apparently you're a fan too. So Schwalbe came out with these G1 RS gravel tires. I think they actually call them gravel race tires.
Race speed. That's the RS.
Ah, oh wait, how about that? That makes sense, doesn't it? Weird. But these tires have been really cool. They're not the best in terms of longevity. And the rubber's a little soft. The center tread is super fine, so it doesn't take too long for it to wear out. But they are wicked fast. They ride amazingly well. They actually provide surprisingly good grip, certainly on the stuff that we have around here, which is mostly like packed dirt and that sort of thing. But then with the kind of like slash-shaped side knobs and stuff here, they actually corner pretty well. I feel pretty confident generally tossing them in fairly loose-ish corners. They've got a nice kind of slightly squared off tread profile that I like a lot around here. They're light. Yeah, this has been another big plus for me. These have been awesome.
Well, hey Ben, now a fellow YouTuber, welcome to the club. So it's an honour to be asked to share my gear of the year with you today. And I actually found this really tricky because while stuff like the new MV wheels behind me, say, the new Specialized shoes, or the new Vittoria Corsa tyres that leap to mind, and are all excellent products launched in the past 12 months, they're all very expensive. So in the end, after much deliberation, the two products I've gone for don't cost a fortune, which is definitely a good thing. And they are two products that have been essential for me this year, and products I take on every single ride, on road or off road. So the first one is a Dynaplug, a tubeless repair kit, and the second is a super lightweight inner tube. Now the Dynaplug isn't a new product, but it has really impressed me every time I've used it this year. I've used it quite a few times, unfortunately being one of those years, but every time I've used it, I've been blown away with how quick and easy it is to use. I love the fact you whip it out, stab it in the hole and go. It's great whether you're racing or just riding in crappy conditions or with mates, you don't want to hold them up, so you can get going really quickly. And for me, that's been one of my favourite bits of kit this year. Then the other one is not a product I actually use that much, but I love the fact these new thermoplastic inner tubes, Tubolito, probably the most well known, take up so little space in your saddlebag or backpack or jersey pockets compared to old-fashioned inner tubes. You get 1, 2, 3 in a lot less space than a Bootle inner tube. Yes, they're expensive for an inner tube, but the fact they save that much space is worth the money for me. And although I don't use them that often, they are a good backup option to have just in case you have a real nightmare with your tubeless repair kit. So for me, these are my two favourite bits of kit from 2022. I know Ben, I know, not the most exciting. You're probably hoping for a Carnago C68 or something a bit more glamorous, but these have kept me riding, and for me that's really important. So those are my two bits of kit for 2022.
Hello, Anne-Marije Rook. Nice to see you. I want to hear what you have enjoyed riding this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite an interesting year in terms of the kind of gear I got to ride, everything road bike and gravel related. You and I were both at the Argonaut GR3 launch, and that bike was probably one of my favorite gravel bikes of the year. It spoke to my cyclocross loving heart in that it was very, very snappy, very playful, and very light, and quite the contrast of the, full suspension, heavy eyelets everywhere type of bikes you're seeing on the other end of the spectrum.
One thing that struck me about that was how slack the front end was. Definitely not a cyclocross kind of front end geometry. Did that feel weird to you, or did you like how the front end of that bike felt?
Oh, I liked it because it became that much more capable. I think I've spent a good amount of time on mountain bikes in the last few years as well. And this one married, the two in one frame. And the other bike, speaking of like very random bikes that I've been riding a lot this year and very much enjoyed, is my Brompton.
You've ridden this all over, including, I think of Brompton as like you put it on the train, then you go for a ride, but you rode that in a pretty unusual place this year, which was?
Two unusual.
Two unusual places. Okay.
Two unusual places. One was right after I got it, I rode it to the Cyclocross World Championships. So okay. I literally rode from the airport, and people looked at me like, "What is she doing?" Out to the cyclocross venue in a place where people are not. Yeah, in Fayetteville, where they're not used to bikes, let alone silly clown bikes. Yeah, so I had my big bag, because I was there for quite a few days, and just rode from the airport straight to the cyclocross course, and it was about like 24 miles or so on like mixed terrain on tiny little wheels. So that was pretty funny. And then I took it to the tour as well as a way to get a little bit of my bike miles in while I was, working those days. I've been a really big fan of all things Swalby this year. And so I've been running. I thought the G1 RS was the best tire I've ridden in a very long time. It was really, really fast. It was pretty capable, and I never flatted on it, which I get a lot of flats. So that's always really nice when that doesn't happen. I would pick that as my favorite gravel tire of the year. And I just switched to the Overlands because it's a winter or a more winter appropriate tire. But yeah, I think the G1 RS is my favorite on gravel. On the road, I'm just straight up Contis. Like I said, I flat a lot, and there's a lot of rough terrain where I live. So anything that's slightly heavier and has a bit more protection, I will go for.
The context around my cycling. One, I moved about 18 months ago to a place with a lot of mountain biking and less road riding. Two, I have an 18-month-old child. And so both of those things have affected the way in which I ride bikes in the last year and a half. And as a result, the bike that actually got the most mileage or kilometers, whatever you want, this last year was my Urban Arrow. I have ridden in exactly a year. That bike has 2,800 miles on it.
Nice.
And that is entirely in like 3.5 mile trips back and forth across town. So, a fair number of them, right? Basically every single day. And it's been amazing because our only other vehicle is this big truck that we use for camping, and we don't really want to drive it anywhere, particularly with gas prices the way they are. And I just don't touch it for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. And I just ride this Urban Arrow cargo bike around. It's life-changing. It's like one of those, how did we do life before this thing? And it's not necessarily even that bike, I think, that is my favorite product. It's that concept,
yes.
Right? So like,
yes.
There's lots of different brands that make similar things, and I think the Urban Arrow is a phenomenal version of it, and it's got a really big bucket up front, and the motor's great, big Bosch motor. All the sort of spec choices are really spot on. Huge brakes, because I sometimes ride this thing with my wife and my child in it, right? So there's 3 full-grown adults and a child on one.
So Meg's in the front with the kiddo as well?
Yes. So there's like a bench on it, right? And
okay.
She's sitting there, and then she's holding on to the kid. But that's a fair amount of weight, the 3 of us.
Yes.
And so you need big old brakes, and we've got like big Magura brakes, and it's really well put together. Now, that's not like the sexiest thing, perhaps sexiest product of the year. I would say, I was thinking through this when you sent over the invite, Ben, and there's a couple sort of different directions I was going to take it, but the really obvious one for me is just a bike, and this feels almost cliche at this point. It was a bike that I appreciated this year for its ability to remind me like why road bikes were fun to me a long time ago, and the way that I like to feel riding a road bike. And that was, again, a little bit cliche, the Specialized Athos, which is just like, I've ridden a lot of bikes in the last decade, right? As a tech editor for a long time, and just as bikes sort of float through bike media, right? And it's my favorite one. It's the bike that, like, I should say it's my favorite non-custom bike. It's the bike that like best reflects the way that I like to ride and what I like a bike to feel like, and just all the little tiny things that they've done to that bike it's where I am as a cyclist right now, right? Like it's not Aero, and it doesn't try to be anything that I don't want to be anymore. I don't need to be anymore. It's just go out and have a great old time, cruising around switchbacks and stamping on the pedals and descending like a maniac. And I just love it. I absolutely love that bike.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite of the last at least like 5-6 years, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, so for me, my gear of the year for 2022 is very different from what my gear of the year would have been 2 or 3 years ago, just because of how my cycling journey has changed, going from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere, moving from South Africa to the UK, moving from Bicycling Magazine to Cyclingnews and Bike Perfect, and now Off-Road.cc. So there was a lot to think about, but I've narrowed it down to 5 products which span 3 disciplines. So road, which is a bit of TT, cycling esports, which is indoor, and then something from gravel. So to kick it off, I was never a time trialist. It was something that just didn't appeal to me at the time. But moving to the UK and just getting immersed within that culture, it slowly drew me in. Now I'm hooked. Now I just want to go fast. That's all I want. So,
Don't we all? Yeah.
So for me, one of the most important things, which is often taken for granted, is how your kit fits you. So I've gone through a lot of skin suits and speed suits, and something which has worked for me, particularly this season, is the Nopens flow suit. And it's not the standard flow suit. It's the flow suit that has been tailored to my body through a 3D scan. So I was invited to Nopens HQ, which is located in Barnstable in Devon. And they've got this really cool in-house 3D scan tool where you go stand in this little booth. It takes about 5 minutes. It scans multiple points on your body, and then they use those points to tailor the kit around you. So that's product number 1. Okay. Product number 2 is also to do with time trialing, believe it or not. It is the Ceramic Speed OSPW Aero. Now, this works on the same principle as the sort of traditional oversized pulley wheel system from Ceramic Speed. So it's still got the same 13-tooth upper pulley wheel and 19-tooth lower pulley wheel with the ceramic bearings, etc. But now it's got that shroud or
the pocket protector aero cover.
Yes, bearing. Their claim is 2.5 seconds saved over a 25-kilometer time trial. It's very expensive. It's about 750 euros. Also hard to quantify. But for me, I've been struggling to dip under 20 minutes for the 10 mile for the last year. Over Easter, I did a 20:08, followed by a 20:02. And I was like, should I give this thing a go? Now, I don't know if it was just coincidental. I fitted this bad boy and I did a 19:44.
No.
So I don't know if it's because of that, but
that's not coming off your bike now.
It's not coming off my bike. Next thing is a cycling computer, Garmin Edge 1040 Solar. Now, as you know, Ben, we get lots of kit to try out and test. Cycling computers, there's a lot of sort of marketing propaganda sort of rammed down our throat. And for anyone who is kind of using cycling computers, they will know, apart from the navigational and mapping capabilities of a device, the most important thing is battery life. You can have the best screen, you can have the best navigational prompting in the world, you can have NASA on this device. But if there's no battery and the battery's poor, it just doesn't make sense. Now, what's really cool about the 1040 Solar, as the name suggests, Garmin has taken solar technology, which I think they launched on their Phoenix smartwatch range, and they've kind of shoehorned it into the device. So there's a little bit of a solar panel at the top and the bottom, and a little wafer-thin section around the sides. This is claimed to add about 45 hours or get the battery up to 45 hours and 100 hours in battery saver mode. I haven't used battery saver mode, but I can confirm I don't need to charge mine. I might need to now that it's like minus 28,000 and there's no sunlight in the UK. But it's a really cool cycling computer. And just based on the solar ability alone, it's something that stood out for me this year.
Nice.
Moving on to product 3, Wahoo Kicker V6. On face value, no different to the V5. The internals, no different to the V5. But what Wahoo has done is they've fitted it with Wi-Fi. It's got a new ERG easy ramp mode, so there's no spiral of death anymore. If you have to get off the trainer, get back on, gives you 10 seconds to ease back into it. And that's always been a complaint for all all indoor cyclists or those who like doing workouts in an indoor environment. And then it's got an odometer, so you can tell exactly how much mileage it's got. So for me, the standout, Wi-Fi, reason for that, signal interference and dropouts. We've all been there. You're in a race, going up a climb, no power all of a sudden, fall out the back, race over. So what Wi-Fi does, it essentially just avoids, nullifies all that interference. And what I found, which isn't really in the literature around this product, is that there's just more response. So because it's bolted directly into your local network, it allows obviously a better sort of communication with the kicker. So I find that it's really responsive to gradient changes within the game, and the power is kind of instant. So there's no little delays, and for me, that's a game changer. And then finally, something that stood out for me, and I know there's been a lot of debate around what it looks like. We rode that bike together in California, and it's the YT Scepter gravel bike. And what's interesting about this bike is that YT do things a little differently. The idea of gravel and the gravel concept is still in the state of flux. It's still yet to define itself. So we've got a lot of manufacturers doing things differently and just starting on a clean slate and trying to design things the way they want it and not having to sort of pander to this particular blueprint. And what I liked about the YT Scepter was the geometry, so the 69-degree head angle, and obviously it's now got a suspension fork on the front, so the RockShox Rudy with 40 millimeters of travel. And why this appeals to me is mountain biking in the UK is different to mountain biking in South Africa. So my Trek Pro Caliber 9.8 hardtail doesn't really work here. And the YT Scepter does everything that bike does and more. It's got the same degree head angle, so 69 degrees, smidgen less travel, but just really, really capable bike. Can do everything the mountain bike can do, but it's faster on the road, arguably faster on the trails too, especially if you're on a straight ahead gravel road. Really, really cool bike. And I got one on test. I'm going to be trying it in the mud of the UK over December, doing the Festa 500 on it. So those are just a few things that stood out for me, Ben.
Hi, Betsy Welch.
Hi, Ben.
It's been a heck of a year. You've ridden bikes all over the world, all sorts of bikes, all sorts of gear. The world wants to know, what were your favorites and why?
Well, Ben, I hope you're not mad at me, but there's only one bike that I could possibly wax poetic about.
It's not going to be a road bike.
No.
It's probably not even a gravel bike.
It's not. Oh. But you didn't give me parameters.
Even if I gave you parameters, you wouldn't stay within the parameters.
That's
You're not
true.
a parameter within stayer.
That's true. But it's kind of relevant because, it's the Allied BC40, the new mountain bike from Allied in Bentonville, Arkansas. And you went and you toured and I know they talked to you about that bike because that bike is rolling off the assembly line.
It's the hot new thing.
Yeah. But I feel like that bike was made for me. I mean, I know Payson McKeldin says it was made for him, and so does Leah Davison, but actually.
Who cares about those guys? Why do you like this bike?
It's everything I want in a mountain bike. It's so it's like a short travel mountain bike. It's not a downhill bike, but it climbs like a dream. It adheres to dirt and goes uphill really well, but it also goes downhill really well. I rode it all over Colorado this summer, lots of time in Crested Butte, doing huge climbs, massive descents. Just yesterday, I took it over here to Left Hand Canyon, which is some of the rowdiest riding that we have here in Boulder. And, the bike's fine. It's the rider over there that's the issue. But it's just a super capable bike. It's really fun. It's really playful. And, the added perk is that it's made in the U.S.
Made in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your social lament that you were having to send it back.
I know.
All good things must. All right, Allied BC40.
Yeah.
Favorite bike of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
What else? Do you have any stuff, any clothing or food or things?
Along the lines of mountain biking, However, this does transcend disciplines. I can't say enough about my Ripton jorts.
This is the Betsy Welch special. This is why I wanted to ask. For those folks who are asking what is a Ripton, please enlighten.
Ripton is a brand based here in Boulder, started in Aspen, Colorado, that makes high-performance denim.
Stretchy pants.
Yeah, but not just stretchy pants. I mean, they've really expanded the line to, there's jean jacket, there's vest, there's overalls, but the jorts were sort of their entree into the market. And I've been riding in these for probably 2 years now. I mean, I did lead boat in jorts in 2001.
Yes. Leadville, one day 100
21.
miles, steamboat, gravel, the next day 140 miles.
Yeah,
In cut-off jean shorts.
yeah. 2 different pairs.
Betsy Welch, everybody.
But anyway, I still rock a chamois for a longer effort or a race, but like just as easily I can wear jorts, and for mountain biking especially. So anyway, big fan of the company. They have a great irreverent attitude, and they have a lot of fun, and I think you should try them.
Maybe I shall. Maybe 2023 will be the year I don a pair of jorts.
You heard it here.
What else you got?
So one thing I discovered was the Strava map feature. I'm a huge fan of Strava. I use it as like kind of a daily diary. Just like, where did I go? What was I feeling like? What was the weather?
Sure, the way many of us do.
Yeah.
But Betsy uses her phone almost exclusively. See, I know this is normal for you. It's not normal for other folks.
I know.
So the fact that you're using Strava beyond the phone, are you using mapping on the phone? Are you using desktop mapping?
No. Well, sometimes, like
Yeah.
if I make a route. But this came with like, I think the last sort of update, which I don't know when that was, but there's a maps tab at the bottom. And what you can do is, and this was really cool for me when I was in France for the Tour de France Femme and in Iceland. If you're somewhere and you don't really know like where to go ride, or in the case of the tour, I wanted to go run in the mornings.
I was like the suggested routes that pop up. So like, you don't have to punch in where you are. You just pull it up and it says like, here's a 2-mile run. Here's a 3-mile run.
And you can like narrow it down by like, do you want dirt? Do you want hilly? And then what mileage range? So I'd be in these little towns in France, and all of a sudden I was on this like 5-mile dirt loop in the mountains. It was so cool. And I did the same thing in Iceland for bike rides. So I was getting like 20-mile gravel loops near my hotel. And it was so great. And I've even used it, in areas that I'm more familiar with, just to see like, is there something I'm missing? So yeah, I mean, that's just a feature of Strava, which I already love, that I have actually used quite a bit. Well, I know a lot of people already did that tire. I also love the Schwalbe G1 RS. I did the Unbound XL 350-mile race on it. Rode all over France and Italy. Huge fan. I was going to...
Crushed it in the XL, I may add.
Yeah, I got 4th. But one thing I did love is, handlebar bags, top tube bags. Bags are all the rage sort of in gravel. And I've used everything, but I really like the half frame bag, because I feel like if you are using your bags for stuff that you want to access, like namely food or tools or headphones or something, like the handlebar bag, you can't get into that while you're riding. The top tube bags I don't love, just because like they're tiny, I think. But the half bags I find really useful, and my favorite is the Revelate Tangle. It's got zippers on both sides, like big beefy zippers, but it doesn't like bulge, so you don't rub your legs on it. And I use that also I don't use that on just like lunch rides, but I use that on XL. I took it to Europe, long adventure rides. It's really awesome.
Big enough to store plenty of stuff, but not so big it's like getting in the way of the bottles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you can still get 2 bottles. Exactly.
Revelate Tangle.
Revelate Tangle.
All good stuff. Thanks, Betsy.
Thanks, Ben.
This video is supported by Stages Cycling. One of the best ways to improve your cycling is with a power meter, and Stages makes all of its power meters here in Boulder, Colorado. 5 Tours de France were won on a left-sided Stages power meter, and Stages sells left and dual-sided power meters for a variety of cranks, including Shimano, SRAM, and Campagnolo. You can also send in your own crank, and Stages will build a power meter onto it, return the crank to you, and you'll be up and riding with power in a few weeks. If you'd like to save 20% off a Stages power meter, use the code THERIDE at stagescycling.com.
So I've come with 3, and I've got something that I think can benefit a lot of people in a lot of different ways, competitively at least, but potentially looks like there's more. I'll tell you what it is in a sec. I've got something that's very much indoor cycling, and then I've got something that just I really liked. It's not particularly groundbreaking. It's not, as a system, very new, but I loved it. So start with the first one, and that is the classified PowerShift hub, which, for those who don't know, is a 2-speed, essentially an internally geared rear hub that I've likened to, in a few of my articles, as the front derailleur killer, because it pairs with a typical group set. It uses Bluetooth to connect or to use the left-hand shifter, or replace the left-hand shifter, sending a signal to this hub, and then uses a magic, let's call it magic, witchcraft inside. Essentially changing the ratio of the gear that you're using on the front, the chainring, between a 1-to-1 ratio and a 1-to-0.7. So basically replicates having a 2-speed front chainring.
Yeah, that's a great one. The classified hub. Love it. Thing number 2 is an indoor
It is indeed.
piece of gear, which is...
And this is the News Wift Hub Trainer. And the reason I have picked this is pretty much entirely down to the cost and how good value for money it is. In terms of how it's positioned, it's tier 2 trainer in terms of its specs. So it's not a Wahoo Kicker, it's not a Tacx Neo 2T. It's a step below that in terms of what it can do, the specifications it offers, but it's at wheel-on trainer money. So it's $449 in the UK and $499, I think, in the US.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Which you compare that to many of the kind of the tier 2 trainers, which are below, around £800-900, $1,000, that sort of price point. It kind of makes them a little bit redundant or hard sell at the very least.
Oh yeah, it just obliterated that demand overnight.
Yeah, that midsection of the market has been kind of, it's going to have to find a new selling point at least. I've spent some time with it. It's absolutely fine. It's very good, in fact.
Nice. And thing number 3, something that you hold near and dear.
So, thing 3, it does indeed hold a special place in my heart, is the Exposure Strada Mark 11 SB Active front light.
That's a mouthful.
Try saying that 5 times quickly. So the reason I've included this is the backstory is I rode Chasing Cancellara in summer. It was a 275 kilometer, 6,500 meter sportif fondo in Switzerland.
Oof. With
Fabian himself. And it started at the beautiful time of 2 a.m. So the problem I faced, apart from the lack of sleep and everything else and lack of serious training, was
a bright light that lasts for at least 4.5, 5 hours.
I needed a strong light that would last that long. Yeah, and it was. I reached out to Exposure, knowing that they had a demo set. Really good bunch of guys over Exposure, and happily sent me out this Strada. They suggested this one, borrowed it for a while, and in the end, I bought it. That's the long story short. I could not bring myself to send it back because I just really, really like it. But the story is, I spent the first few hours, obviously all in dark, in a group, riding with a bunch of other people. So keep the light on low, don't really need it. Kind of went unnoticed for a while. And then after a while, rolled to the front of the group, and I thought, wow, might as well give it a go, see what full power looks like. And I kid you not, started laughing aloud just because of how incredibly surprised I was. Oh, it's not a 5,000 lumen floodlight that you find in the mountain bike world. It's not that sort of thing. But the way that it's got 1,600 lumens max power brightness, but the way it puts those lumens onto the road is just really, really efficient. So there is no wasted light shone at the trees or the sky. You are putting all of that beam onto the road, not directly into a single circle in front of you, but around as well, just to kind of really light up where you are. And it's fantastic in that sense.
Guy Kesteven, the man, the myth, the legend.
In his own lunchtime, as they say over here. Yeah.
You've tested thousands of bikes. What were your favorite things this year?
Right. Okay. I'm going to start off small. Prison friendly.
Dynaplug. Prison friendly.
Okay. So it's a little. No, it's not a Dynaplug. This is a Petey's
Not a Dynaplug. Aha.
Not a Dynaplug. There's no brass bullets on this one, and it doesn't cost like a tenner to fix your tire every time. But the crucial thing is, I don't know. I hope you'll be able to find a better image of it. But basically, it only has half a hook.
Yes.
So when you are pointing this little harpoon into your fragile gravel tire, the plug actually goes in and then comes out. The tool comes out, but the plug doesn't. Which, if you're used to all these robot claw designs, they all just rip the plug. But in bitter experience, they tend to just rip the plug straight back out again because they're double-sided. So this one, they've just taken the half off the side. Happy days. Just works a lot quicker. And it uses standard plugs. You don't need a Dynaplug. You don't need a Stans plug or anything like that. So that's Steve Pete's company. Right. What else? What's the most important thing? We know what the most important. You just did a video on exactly that.
Tires.
What do I tell most people to get?
What do you use? What do you like?
I use all sorts. I basically just use anything that reminds me of a mountain bike tire of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love a Nano.
Big, wide space knobs?
Not so much. I love a WTB Nano.
Yeah, okay.
Because it goes, what are you using them for? And then they go, pow, and they grip, and they just, if you're going to follow the theme that, certainly in the UK, gravel is 90s mountain biking, then use some 90s mountain biking. So it's like things like, the cinch. I like the Pirellis. I think the Pirelli's good. I like the new, obviously I like the soft conditions one. Yes. And I like the new RC one as well. I think they're a good blend of kind of durability, fast rolling enough to not make you depressed, but with a reasonable grip, and they're tough enough for me to use on my tandem as well. So that's a good sign. If they really want grip and they want a bargain, Specialized Rhombus. That's a great tire for this time of year in the UK. Great tire, and certainly in the UK, Specialized tires are comparatively really, really cheap. So that's a good one. And then top end, putting the new Suples carcass on Schwalbe G1 RS and S. So good.
I'm with you there.
So good.
I'm with you there.
Like,
delicious.
I've never ridden. delicious. Exactly that. Yeah. All those ridiculous words that should be used in like restaurant reviews. But that
These aftertaste of oak. Is that mushroom? What am I getting?
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm getting a delightful Leadville shoe. Yeah, they are just. If you want to feel like you've bought a titanium bike or a new Specialized with all kinds of sink plungers molded into the top tube, but only spent like $70-80, then these and amazingly tough as well. I'm surprised how well they last. I thought they'd explode really, really quickly because they feel so fragile, and you rim them out a lot because there's not a lot of resistance. Well, because it's such a supple carcass, because it's the super race carcass off their cross-country race tyres. Because it's so kind of compliant, it actually saves a load of impact. So, yeah, I think that's why they survive so well, because it's kind of like they've got sort of Tai Chi built into them. They're doing the whole, flowing the impact away from each other as it's coming out. It's like that end sequence of Kung Fu Panda 2. They just go, oh, here comes the stone, and kapow! There it goes. But yeah, another thing that makes me think of Kung Fu Panda 2 is generally a good thing. What else? Wheels.
Yeah, we've got time for one more thing. What else you got?
Okay, wheels. Wheels. Big fan of the Reserve GR25, the new Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
I think that.
Why so?
I loved the Zip 101 because it was basically like
with the ankling.
Yeah. Because it's basically like putting crawler tracks on your gravel bike. The amount of grip and traction and just like you got out of that thing was hilarious. But I think it was a bit too much for most people. And I really like that kind of floated light feel of a Firecrest, which is close, but you could occasionally hit that really hard and go, it's a bit of a nothing like a lot of the deep section carbon wheels, but it could occasionally be a bit of a scaphoid batterer. I think the Reserves are just pitched really, really nicely in the middle, and you get a lifetime warranty, and they're a pretty reasonable price as well. And recently got a lot more respect. Well, it's not that I didn't have respect for, but I spend a lot of time riding the Industry 9 one-on-one hubs as well as the Hydras, and they seem really durable. They seem like up there with DT Swiss, which is about as that's as up there as you get really in terms of durability. So I think that's a really good package that will suit a lot of people.
Dan Cavallari, it is that time of the year, my friend, Gear of the Year. Going around asking folks what they love and why.
Well, I love bike stuff, and so let's bring it on up. All right, so here's mine. That was very heavy.
Yeah. I don't know why you like a helmet that causes back strain.
I keep skipping arm day, Right. Well, let's start with the helmet.
All right.
So I really liked the Giro Eclipse MIPS this year. And for those of you who don't know, it's like a ball and socket kind of deal.
Spherical,
yes, the MIPS spherical. This helmet is super nice, aero-ish. Doesn't breathe as well as I would like, so on hot days I might not opt for this one, but pretty much this is the helmet I reach for 99% of the time. I really love the fit system. It's my favorite fit system, the Rock Lock Air. So definitely been loving this.
It's Giro Eclipse.
Yeah. Eclipse MIPS spherical. There are other colors if you're not into white. But yeah, this has been my go-to all summer. So I really enjoy this helmet. Great for gravel, great for road.
It's a good one. I like it because you've got the MIPS protection, but it doesn't scream MIPS like some of the earlier helmets. You could see the bright yellow hairnet through, like, hey, this is a MIPS product, which I get. It's a branding thing.
Yep. But also occasionally throughout the year I have very long hair. And the other MIPS styles tend to grab it and just, like wrench on it. And this does not. So this is
your tie-dye Tufts.
My tie-dye Tufts, yes. My tie-dye puff out of there. So yeah, I've been pretty happy with this. And MIPS spherical to me has been the best MIPS that I've used. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Wow. What else you got?
I also have this pair of 100% glasses, and it's fun. These are funny because I didn't think I was going to like these when I first got them because they have these little winglets. These are the.
It's like blue blockers on the side.
I know. It looks goofy at first. It really does. But the Norviks, that's what these are called, and they have these little wingy thingies, and I didn't know what they were for, but they're supposed to block glare from the side and make sure you don't get that lens glare on the inside. And I've experienced that with 100% glasses before, where you get that glare coming in from the side. So I really like these a lot. I've been obviously using them quite a lot. You can see they're pretty dirty. And if you're wondering, once you close the arms, the winglets go with them. So really, really happy with these. Love the lens. There's no glare. It's great for all conditions, going through, you know, like shadow and bright and all that. Been super stoked on that.
Nice ones.
Yeah. And I like to eat.
Who doesn't?
I'm a big eater. Slow guy on the fast ride. But I have trouble with gels and nutrition like that. It tends to hurt my stomach. But the only ones that don't, and I actually just ordered a big resupply of these, is the Science and Sport gels. They're super thin. They're like watery. So it's not like when you blast like one of the gels in it just coats your mouth and you're still trying to breathe. You know, you can actually do that with these. And they get into your gut pretty quickly. They are easy to digest quickly. So you get the hit of sugar that you need, and it's not like this gross gurgly feeling.
Yeah, I like there's a lot being isotonic, not so much for the science, although the science part's good, but just for the fact that you mentioned you can actually choke the things down instead of like being a dog with peanut butter in its mouth.
Yeah.
Those are just more drinkable, but the same impact. And still, you know, super easy to tote around in your pockets, or I'll put those on like a top tube bag for gravel races. So.
Yep, and you don't need to drink water with these if you don't want to, which is also cool. So a lot of times with those types of gels and things, you got to like get the peanut butter mouth and then wash that all out, and that water is what helps it absorb into your bloodstream and all that. These, you don't need that. It's much easier. I still usually do rinse it out, but this is much easier to choke down, especially if you're like, you know, you're in a moment in a race or in a ride where you have to keep pushing hard. You can do that with this.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dan Cavallari, slow guy on the fast ride.
That's me.
Thanks, Dan. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Ben.
David Rome, tool nerd, experienced bicycle wrench, my man down under. How are you, good sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on your channel.
Yeah, my honor. Now, you've tested all sorts of goodies over the years, wrenched on many of them, and inquiring minds, including mine, want to know what were your favorite things of 2022?
Ben, this might come as a surprise to you, but a few of them were tools.
Oh, of course they are.
Yeah.
I would be disappointed if they were not.
And others were almost tool adjacent because you kind of need tools in order to use them, or you're probably repairing something if you're going to be using them. So I'll start on brand. I'll start with a tool. And that is, let me just, there we go. So that
Drum roll, please.
Yes, this thing. It's
a hose?
Yeah, it's just a hose insert, and it attached to that is actually a full syringe.
There we go. I see, yes.
But specifically, the syringe is the boring part. That doesn't do anything special. That does. So that is actually a new Shimano insert, which they came up with to end the infuriating experience of your hose popping off mid-bleed from the caliper end, which I'm sure anyone that's done a Shimano bleed before has probably experienced at some point. And all that does, that's a little metal insert that goes inside of the bleed nipple of your Shimano brake caliper, and it just helps guide it in there, and it helps hold it in there. It really locks it in place. And that has completely changed my perspective on how to bleed Shimano brakes, and I no longer dislike the process. And the cool thing is, so this is an official Shimano syringe that came out a year ago or so, really overpriced. Not the best quality syringe itself. The good news is it's like Park Tool and I think bleedkit.com are starting to offer that same little metal syringe, little insert. So yeah, that's just a nice little update for anyone that owns a Shimano brake that needs to bleed it.
Nice.
I'm a fan.
Just keep it clean and tidy and locked in.
Exactly. So yeah, that's probably set the tone for where I'm going. I'm sure you've probably lost some people already, but save the rim brake. But yeah.
Thing number 2, Mr. Tool Nerd. Keep it.
Thing number 2. So you probably used one of these before. Dynaplug. It's a tubeless plug kit. Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
that was one of my top 5 things to bring to a gravel event. That
Awesome.
that very one, the Dynaplug Racer Edition. two-headed monster.
Yeah, so that's the original. You've got your racer, which is sort of the one that was kind of designed for people doing Cape Epic originally. Yeah, jab and go like a little EpiPen.
Yep.
But now there's a Racer Pro, and it's
Okay.
twice as good as the Racer. So basically, you've got your jobbies.
Yep. Can you back them up just a little bit? You're kind of like all up in the, there we go.
Sorry.
Like do a mustache. Yeah, there. Okay. Yes, that's how you carry it. Don't even need to put it in the pocket. You just wear it as a mustache.
Yeah.
In gravel fashion.
Yep. So it looks like a racer, but then it's got this special trick where you actually can unwind this. All right. So you end up
4.
Yeah, you've got double those things, and it's like I think it's like 2 grams heavier than the normal racer, but it gives you twice the plugs. Like, why wouldn't you? So this is you've
just rendered my last list just
right.
Moot.
So you don't have to have the Moots edition. It doesn't hurt if you do, but it's just a regular Dynaplug plug product. I've got a few of these. I keep them like permanently strapped to my mountain bikes now. So I'm a big fan. I'm heavily invested in them, and I'm convinced that they're the best tubeless plug product on the market.
Oh, that makes me happy to know that something I love has got the Dave Rome seal of approval. Now, riddle me this, sir. You say strap to your mountain bike. Precisely how do you strap said Dynaplug Pro to your mountain bike?
I use like Velcro straps designed to hold tubes to bikes. So specifically, my go-to is the Backcountry Research, which is like I think their original kind of idea of that. And yeah, it's like a big, thick, hand-stitched Velcro strap. But yeah, it keeps things super secure. And I have my Dynaplug, and the tube that I have strapped in there is actually a third product of note on the list.
Okay, drum roll, please.
Tubolito, the TPU tube. So that's not normally how I roll them up. That's just one I had sitting around spare.
That's just how you did your hair today?
Exactly. If I had long hair, then that is exactly how I'd wear it. But yeah, so that's like your more regular lightweight road tube, and then that's your Tubolito S, which is the smallest one they make. And they kind of designed it specifically as a spare tube. And I liken it to the rain jacket of inner tubes, which is you carry it so you don't need it. So that's the idea.
And like a good rain jacket, like yes, you could, a cheaper one would work fairly well, but it would be enormous to carry around.
Exactly.
But for a little more money, you can get a super compact thing where it's not that big of a deal to carry, so you're more likely to carry it. And then Murphy's Law applies, and since you're carrying it, you don't need it, and then all is good with the world.
Perfect. So this is the Gore-Tex Shake Dry of inner tubes.
I just learned that Gore-Tex Shake Dry is going away because it's not environmentally friendly.
Oh no!
Shocking, right?
That's shocking.
So hold on to yours. Don't tear it up.
It's going away.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, this thing, it's incredibly light, and given I run tubeless and I'm pretty confident in all my tire setups, I don't really flat. But in case I do, then I've got a spare tube and a Dynaplug to get me out of all problems. So given you're likely not going to ever need it, it is good to go with the lightest and most compact option. So that's why I'm a fan of Tubolito. There's some other brands that are potentially being made by the same company, but the orange one's the original.
Yeah, so tell me, Stephen, what did you love this year? What were some new things that you liked, or maybe perhaps some old favorites?
Yeah, well, the number one would be the New Canyon Ultimate, because I like it in the most expensive way it's produced, the CFR, but also in the SL version. It's light. The CFR was like 6.2 kilograms, but the SL I tested, the Ultegra Di2 version, weighs only 7.3 or 7.4, I guess. So it really is a light bike, and it handles the same. It has the same handling spirit as the expensive one. So that's why I really like what they did there. It has a couple of aero cues, but it also has that appeal of a more classic-looking bike. It has a slender figure, a slender profile. It matches up well with low-profile rims, but also high-profile rims. So it's a really versatile bike, which looks good, is affordable in most versions, or as affordable as bikes nowadays get. So yeah, that's why I would put it at the top of my list.
Oh, what other gear did you like this year? Either
well, the two other bikes I really liked were one is the Pinarello Gravel F. I didn't expect I would like it so much, because yeah, it's a gravel bike made by a true racing brand. So I thought it would be a bit too harsh, a bit too racy, but it's actually very versatile. It handles a lot of surfaces really well. You can ride it hard and fast on the asphalt, but it absorbs a lot of vibrations, high frequency vibrations from gravel paths. So yeah, it does a lot of things really well. It looks unique, so it has that unique look. It's light, not as light as the Specialized Crux, but it is light. And I tested it with the Princeton wheels, which were also a big plus, of course. But those get the price to a really high level, because otherwise it's not as unattainable as a lot of the other high-end Pinarellos.
Yes.
So it's expensive, but not as expensive as a Dogma F.
All right. What's bike number 3 for Steven?
Well, for me personally, that would be the Origine Fraction. It's their new aero bike. Origine is a small northern French brand, and it's gaining popularity in the Benelux as well. And it's well known for its really responsive and lively bike frames, especially road bike frames, but they also have some cross country and a really good gravel bike as well. But they made that Fraction as an appealing aero-looking bike. I don't think it has spent that much time in the wind tunnel, but it looks classy. It doesn't have the very big tubes, but it does look like a modern bike. It has all the brake lines internal, and yeah, it looks good, and it handles even better. It's very lively. It's not as, it doesn't feel like a wooden plank that's been afloat in the ocean for 2 weeks, like a lot of other aero bikes that I tested. So it really is something unique, I think. Yeah.
That's great. I like that description of wooden plank that's been afloat in the ocean for weeks. I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah,
with
no
credit.
problem.
Yeah. Great.
It's not copywritten, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks for taking the time to share. Appreciate the perspective.
No problem. And good luck with with everything you're doing.
All right. Thanks so much, Steven.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks to all the journalists for taking the time to share their favorite gear of the year. And thanks to you for taking your time to watch the video. You can check out the lists of each journalist in the video description down below. I'm Ben Delaney. I wish you happy holidays, and as always, enjoy the ride.